Hey high school seniors, my name is Christina and I am a full-time muralist and sign painter based here in the Panhandle of Florida. I wanted to come on here because now is about that time that you'll be painting your senior parking spaces, and I wanted to give you some of the tips and tricks that I use as a muralist that'll hopefully save you some time, save you some money, get you a great outcome for you to enjoy your last year of high school. First, let's talk about paint. Your school will likely require you to use an exterior latex paint, which is just a fancy way of saying house paint. This is the type of paint you can buy at your local hardware store. You simply choose the color you want off of the wall of swatches, bring it to the counter, and they'll mix it on the spot for you. When you bring those colors to the counter, they'll have some questions for you. Do you want the paint to be interior or exterior? You'll choose exterior. They'll ask if you want the good, better, or best paint. The good paint, the base one, is just fine for your purposes. They'll then ask what size you want. There's gallons, quarts, and samples. Gallons will cover your full parking space, quarts will cover about a quarter, and samples are great for details. Pricing will vary depending on what colors you choose, as well as the sheen. Flat is going to be the cheapest and would work just fine for your parking space. Next, you'll need to purchase some supplies. This green frog tape is great for taping off the perimeter of your space. To paint in the main colors of your design, you're going to want to buy a roller or two. These rough surface rollers are a great option. You'll also need to purchase a paint tray, and for easy cleanup, they offer these liners for $1 you can lay into your tray and dispose of later. If you're concerned about the line work on your perimeter, these zebra brushes are pricey, but they're awesome. The angle allows you to get really straight lines even on that rough asphalt surface. For deeply discounted paint and supplies, check out your local Habitat for Humanity Restore. Some of the supplies are brand new, and they even have pre-mixed paint products for you to choose from. Just be sure to read all the labels to make sure that the paint meets your school specifications. Now to answer the question that I get asked the most. How do I get the design I came up with onto my parking space so then I can paint it in? I'm going to show you 3 different methods to do this, starting from the most tech savvy, since I'm sure you guys are more tech savvy than I am, onto the most basic method. First, we have the VR headset method. If you are a gamer, you probably own one of these, and there's an app called Contour that you can download for $10. It allows you to place your image anywhere you want, floor, ceiling, walls, scale up. It locks in so you can then trace it. Many VR headsets are catered to Android users, so if you're an Apple user like I am, there's an additional step. I had success with downloading FilePort, but there are many ways to communicate from your Mac to your headset. The next method I wanted to discuss is how to create a stencil that you can then bring to your parking space and trace. There are a number of great tutorials online that can show you how to blow up your image just on your computer at home. You can then cut it out and trace it in. Another method is to puncture all of the major intersecting points of your design, so then you can take it outside, mark those points in through the paper with your chalk or marker, and then simply connect the dots. To bypass the printer, you can use a basic light projector or digital projector like you would have at home for movies. With your image up on the wall, you could then trace it onto whatever product you intend to use to create your stencil. Poster board, cardboard, even tissue paper will suffice. You could then cut out items that you want to trace or create an entire negative to paint into. If you decide on tissue paper, you'll trace this in with pencil and then use marker to heavily outline your design and allow that ink to bleed through onto your parking space for you to then trace in. I would not recommend this method if it's windy or if your base parking space color is very dark, because it will be difficult to see. However, this is a great method if you're trying to create symmetrical designs. I actually used this when I was painting Pounders up in Crestview to create the mirror image of the design on the building. If you're stenciling the same day you're painting, chalk or markers will work great and they'll wash away. If you need your design to stay, these metallic Sharpies work awesome. They show up on every single base color and they won't wash away if it rains. The third and final method I wanted to show you is the grid method. You start by printing or drawing your reference image and then overlay a grid on top of it using squares. Depending on how elaborate your design is, you may want to use more squares. Essentially, all this does is it takes your large drawing and makes it into multiple, simpler drawings. By following where the lines of your design fall on the grid, you're able to scale it up in proportion to your reference image. Grids are also helpful for creating circles. You take a piece of string, anchor it in the center, pull it taut to the outside edge to create your radius, and then rotate it around, touching at all of your outer edge points. Finally, let's talk about paint day. What to wear, what to bring, and how to actually paint your space in. First and foremost, you want to dress the part. Make sure you don't wear anything you care about getting paint on, because even water-based paint will stain anything porous. That includes the interior of your car. Consider bringing a plastic container or plastic lined container to take your paint to and from your parking space. Although this paint will wash clean off of your skin, your brushes, and your rollers, you likely won't have access to running water to clean anything right away. It's important to plan accordingly. Your brushes and rollers will have to either be kept wet to bring home and clean or disposed of on site when you're done. There is no right or wrong way to plan for, prep for, or paint in your parking space, but here's how I would go about it. I would start by sweeping the space and getting it as clean as possible, removing all the leaves and debris. Next, I would mark in and tape off the area that I'll be painting. A lot of schools will ask you to go a few inches inside of the actual parking space lines. You can use your broom handle for this, a straight edge, or even some string to mark the perimeter. Then you'll lay your tape along your lines. Using an old towel or tarp, I would next set up a workspace so I can prep my paint. It's at this point that I would use a paint roller to fill in my background, or whatever the primary color of my design may be. For easy cleanup later, I would put my entire paint tray into the very bottom of a tall kitchen bag. I would then tuck under all of the excess so you can see the tray underneath, and use it as you would as if the plastic wasn't even there. You could also throw a paint liner on top at this point. I would then put my roller onto the frame, give the paint a good shake, and open it. If you purchase your paint from Home Depot, they will provide you with paint can openers. You can also use a flathead screwdriver. Once the lid is loose, carefully remove it, watching for drips. I like to have my roller ready to go to dab and minimize messes. You'll then give your paint a good stir, and then you'll be ready to pour it into your paint tray. From here, you'll pour directly on top of your plastic, or if you inserted a liner, right inside the liner. Now you're ready to load up your brush and paint. You'll then use your roller to paint up to but not completely over your tape lines. If you happen to run over, a wet rag will clean it before it dries. Now that your first coat is down, here's where that plastic bag comes into play. If you need to do another coat, you want to make sure that paint stays wet and doesn't dry out while you're waiting. You can use that excess to drape it over and keep the paint wet while you wait. This is especially important in the Florida summer heat. Then whenever you're ready to start back up, you just peel that plastic back, tuck it back under, and you're ready to go. If you're finished, all you have to do is reverse the bag, and your mess is contained inside of it. From here, you can either remove the roller from the roller arm to then clean, or you can dispose of it with the rest of your paint. Rollers hold a ton of paint, so to keep your hands as clean as you can during this step, grab the roller from the outside of the bag, leaving it inside. Pull the roller arm out, and leave the roller inside of the bag to dispose of. You could then hang on to this trash bag to use throughout the remainder of your day for things like your paint stir and eventually the tape that you taped your space off with. What you do from here will vary quite a bit depending on the design you've come up with and how you want to go about painting it in. But I will include a list of supplies that you can screenshot and use as a checklist on paint day. For additional information and resources, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Christina Custom Art or at ChristinaCustomArt.com. Have a great summer.